I'm excited today to join you to talk about betrayal blindness. Have you ever heard of the word betrayal blindness? You know, I've discovered I've experienced it, but I've not actually heard of the term until just recently. But once I heard it, in fact, I've been reading through Jennifer Fried's book. Actually, it's Fried. I want to say Fried, but it's Fried. I've been reading through Jennifer Fried's book called Blind to Betrayal. Blind to Betrayal. See if I have it near here to where I can actually show you the cover. Yes, I do. I can show you the cover. Here is the cover of the book, Jennifer Fried's book called Blind to Betrayal, where she actually discusses what it's like to be in a relationship where you there's something wrong and you kind of know there's something wrong, but you don't want to acknowledge that it's wrong or that you can't see it. She actually it's a literal blindness. She's not using the word casually or thoughtlessly. She's being intentional in this word of betrayal blindness. Actually, you know what? I'm realizing I'm talking about betrayal blindness because I've been onto it. And well, really, what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to stop and rewind for a second. We're going to talk about snooping. Snooping. Betrayal blindness is next week. So if you want to learn more about what betrayal blindness is, be sure to join me next week. But we're going to talk about snooping today. I would love, I know that people are just still populating, because I just barely started a live, so people are just coming on board. But have you ever snooped? And even a better question I would love to know is, did you ever think that you would snoop before you snooped? I want to let you know that I swore I wasn't going to be one of those people who snooped. I wasn't going to be one of those women who didn't trust her man and then started going through his phone. And interestingly enough, in my first marriage, which was to Brad, I talk about Brad a lot for those of you who know me. Um, he was a great guy. Brad was a good guy, and phones came into our lives, late into the marriage because we got married way back in the '80s, and phones. I didn't get my first phone until 2013 was when I got my first phone. He had it earlier than me because I needed it for work. They had one of those Nextel where you'd like click to connect because he worked in construction. And so he had it, but he didn't like it because to him it felt like work. I mean, he got it for work. So he had a real love hate relationship, and it was one of those things where he would pass the phone to me and say, look up where such and such is, or tell me whatever. He'd have me go search on his phone for him. And so I just knew he was never on it. We didn't text each other. It wasn't a way we communicate. We phone called each other. We didn't take those photos and send photos to each other. It was just not something that we did. So when I started dating after he passed away from cancer, and was widowed, I started dating, and then I started discovering, texting and sending photos to people that you were dating, interested in, and all of this exchange that would happen. And but I still thought to myself, I'm never going to be one of these people who snoop. It's just not what I'm going to do. To me, snooping indicates that there is some form of a distrust, and I should just exit the relationship. And by the way, if you guys are new to me and you're just joining, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a retired psychologist. I'm thrilled that you're here. Please like this screen and share this live so that more people know that we're on and we're talking about snooping today. Should you snoop? Shouldn't you snoop? Is it right to invade your partner's privacy? Is it a wrong thing to do? I would really love to have you guys get the message out that that's what we're talking about so that we can get more people in the room. And because I think this is a really important topic, because you're going to find that I don't have a clear answer. I really don't. I'm not going to come in and be one of those people to say you should never snoop, but I'm also not going to be one of those people to say, the fastest you can clone his phone or clone her phone. I'm not going to tell you that either. But I really want to talk about the why we snoop. What does it indicate? What else could we be doing? What does that say to you? And we really want to dig into kind of the psychological underpinnings of snooping and what happens in these types of relationships. So I get into the second relationship, and the first thing I noticed is that he's texting people in the evening, and I thought, okay, it's a large family, they're talking to each other. I do know they have the family thread, that makes sense. And so I kind of discount it, but I get an new Apple Watch, and I give him my Apple Watch, and he leaves it at home in the cradle when we're just newly married. And I noticed that while he's at work, it's flashing a lot, which I know because I have an Apple Watch that it means that means that he's getting a lot of text messages and that there's text going back and forth. Or I don't even know that. I'm assuming that, but maybe he's just getting a lot of text messages. So But I say to myself, and remember, I'm only walking through the bedroom. So consider the timeline. I'm only in the bedroom when I'm like putting clothes away or doing something in the bathroom. I'm not in the bedroom all the time because this is a decent sized house. So most of the time I'm not in the room. But I noticed that Apple Watch flashing when I'm walking through, which tells you there was a lot of activity happening on his text. But I say to myself, I'm not looking. I'm not going to be one of those people. Well, we get into taking our late honeymoon. We get married. The wedding will goes great, but the honeymoon right after the wedding is bizarre. It's bizarre. He leaves 2 days in advance of us getting married to go away to get a gift ready for me. Like what? What gift takes 48 hours to get ready? So he leaves me with all the last wedding plans and arrangements because my family's flying in, which means I have to play chauffeur because they don't rent a car. And I'm trying to get the wedding ready. And he leaves me with all of this. Really crappy move. Pisses me massively off. And he shows up a couple hours before the wedding and we get married and we have a great ceremony and we have a great, dinner with the family and friends. And then we go to the hotel where he supposedly has gotten this gift ready, which I write about it in Love You More. So if you want to know what happens, I'm not going to go into every detail of what happens because it's it's disastrous and I do share it all. So if you want to know exactly what happens, please check out Love You More. But so it's not good. So I have all these plans that we're going to have this better honeymoon once we sell the house and we sell the car and we're getting ready to move. We're going to take like 10 days off and go somewhere special and have a great time. So we get there and again, the first night of the honeymoon goes disastrous. Like you could not believe what he does. It is so horrifyingly awful that I'm just crushed. I'm crushed. And one of them is he's texting somebody else. I wake up and find him engaged in something he shouldn't be engaged, rather than being engaged with me, but he's texting another person. So he says, okay, I won't be texting women. I know I shouldn't be doing that. And I wake up to the last night of the honeymoon to a message from another woman saying that they've been engaged to each other, not engaged, but dating each other that for 3 months now, right through our engagement and our wedding and our marriage, and 2 months into our marriage, he's been dating this other woman. I had no clue, no clue. And yet that Apple Watch had been flashing, flashing. So that was my introduction, like slap me into the ice cold water of betrayal of what it felt like to suddenly realize a couple things. One, I didn't know my partner at all, that I had essentially married a stranger, and that he'd been having this double life completely behind my back. And now I'm married to him. I'm moving to a new country. The house is sold, the car is sold, my visa has been approved by the new country, and the business is opening. I mean, all of these big decisions, big purchases have been made on this, and I need to like go. So I don't leave him. I should have, but I don't leave him because I felt like the weight of everything on me. But what I started doing was really fast. Oh, thank you so much, Megan. Is I started snooping. And I remember the first time I did it, and of course it yielded something horrific. So then it becomes something you do again because you find the one thing and then you think, what else am I not finding? And what else do I don't not know? And how else are they hurting me? And I kept thinking, and I would love to know what you guys think. So I'm not going to just do all teaching today. I want this really to be interactive. So as I'm saying this, I would really love to know what you thought. What did you think you would get by snooping? Because here's what I thought. I thought that by snooping, that somehow that I would be able to get enough information that I would make a decision, that I would find out some big piece of something that would help me then determine what I should do next. I kept thinking that, but it didn't do that. And did it do that for you? I would really like to know, did it work? Did you get the information that you needed to confirm whatever it is that you're confirming? I just had this conversation with Lisa Sunny, Stronger Than Before, on the podcast, Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. And for her, interestingly enough, it did yield something. She actually got some information that she really needed that was damning enough. She's like, we are done. I'm out of here. But for me, it just became a perpetual thing that I did. I started sneaking a lot, and then that got to be a whole process where I'd like, is he asleep enough that I can get his phone off the charger? Can I, get it back on before he knows? When do I have enough time on my computer to actually hack into the file? I mean, it was just crazy. It's crazy. So I'd love to know, did it help? Did it do what you wanted it to do, or did it just make things worse? It became like an addiction for me, honestly. So I'm going to start looking at what you guys are saying. So Gail said, I wish I didn't snoop because now I can't look at him the same. Yeah, so it affects what you see. But Gail, let me follow up with that question. Now that you know what you know, is it changing how you feel and what you're doing about the relationship? Has it somehow essentially shifted things for you? Oh, Karma, I'm so glad that the advice about the couples therapy was helpful the other day, that you were able to decide to go in a different direction. So, Phoenix, you said I wanted evidence. I think that was something to help me like figure out what to do so you didn't feel so crazy. I think that's the other thing is that I was being gaslit a lot. In fact, I was even being gaslit before I knew that I was being gaslit. That he was deceiving me and lying me and flipping things on me, and I just thought that it was sincere truth. I didn't know that it was gaslighting, and I didn't know that he was setting me up and deceiving me. So partly I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. Partly for me, is what I meant to say. Partly for me, the snooping was a way to 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 sort through what's real, for me to know, that it wasn't real. So Dara on Facebook said, no, I didn't look. It was an accident. I found out, but it was a year before I knew something was wrong. He said it was only in my mind. Exactly. So Dara, you're saying that before you looked, you never looked, but before you found out, because they do that. That happens a lot. Like they'll leave the computer open and they'll leave the screen up on a page where it shouldn't be, or there's some message they sent you, but they really meant to send it to somebody else, and then you knew it, and then it's really not for you, or there's some photo that accidentally. Here's how it happened to it. So I was doing business in the other country, and I was working with somebody who was going to um, on a contract basis, and he was going to show me a photo of something, and he thumbed through his photo. He goes, "Here, come here, look at this," and he's thumbing through his photos, and he had nude pictures on his phone as he's flipping through it, and I could not see it. I mean, he had me look, and like both of us had that red face moment. But I can imagine something like that could happen where it's another incident, and suddenly you discover that there's the information. He didn't know it was there, or she didn't know it was there, and then you both like kind of stumble on it together. Yeah, so Megan saying it was a slap in my face. It stuck, but I stuck around. And then Graceful Oaks Fiber said, I thought it would help me make a decision, but it just made me feel worse. That's what I found too. I agree, guys. It was like it didn't help. I thought it would help, but it didn't help. It just added to my confusion, and then it became part of my process that I would look again and look again and look again, because I kept thinking I'm going to get something. I don't even know what it was I thought I would get, because I already knew that. Here's what I found out by snooping. He was One of the things that he had done, which is like so awful and in your face, and he made sure to really turn the screw on me on it, was that he actually, apparently somebody had called him on a wrong number, and then he wrote back that she loved the sound of her voice, and that he bet she had beautiful lips or something stupid like that. And she just wrote back, you have the wrong number. I mean, so she didn't even engage. She just like, dude, you have the wrong number. And then he said to me when I confronted him about it, like, oh, well, I just really liked the sound of her voice, which was like, that was dog whistling. He was backhanding me that somehow there was something less desirable about me than this woman's voice on a phone that's a stranger. He doesn't even know who she is. So it was like stuff like that would happen that was just devastating and awful, and made me feel like crap. And yet I couldn't stop doing it, and yet I couldn't leave either. And that's the thing we're going to talk about next week, is betrayal blindness. So if you hopped on Facebook or YouTube, you heard me kind of introduce betrayal blindness, because I've been writing about it and preparing for next week's podcast. So my mind's been there, not on the snooping. But we're going to get into it next week on snooping. But yeah, it really was, it became an addiction for me, where I just couldn't do it enough. Now, interestingly enough, and I wondered if any of you ever got to the place where finally there was something you found that was like, okay, that's it, I'm done. This is too much. I'm over the top. I know for me that I did get that. I did get something that was really like horrifically awful, and it broke something. So, but this time I didn't snoop. It was one of those accidental things where, he sort of set up the situation, and then I participated in the situation, and it allowed me access to the phone. And sure enough, the phone was open to an app where he'd been up to something he wasn't supposed to, sort of like with you, Dara, that he set himself up, and then I just, he even kind of invited me into being in it. So here's what happened. So what happened was, I my son, this was near the end of the relationship, and for those of you who know my story, my son had been diagnosed with leukemia, near death. It was horrifying, scary. And I flew home. I flew back to the United States, and I to be part of the treatment plan. And we'd been there. My partner and I had been there for 2 weeks, 2 3 weeks. And my son was finally had just finished his first chemo round, and he was discharged home. So if anybody's ever gone through cancer, or especially leukemia, you know that everything now is a big deal. There is nothing small around that treatment. Like a headache or a fever could be life threatening, seriously, like life threatening. So we get home the first night. It's my birthday, actually. We eat pizza that night, but everybody's tense. Everybody's scared. I mean, we're all shaky. And my son says, I have a headache. Now, that could be horrific, could be something bad going wrong. So I say to my son, who's a young adult, I say, I'm going to stay awake. I'm going to stay out by you tonight. Why don't you sleep on the couch, and I will stay here and keep an eye on you. And my then husband loved to be the big guy. You know how that happens, like narcissists like to do that, the good guy. And he said, I'll set the phone for 2 a.m. and that way, when it goes off, you can wake him up and see if everything's okay. I thought to myself, oh, dude, I'm not going to sleep. I'm scared shitless. I'm not going to sleep. But sure, okay, yeah, you set the phone at 2 a.m. I'm not going to argue with you. It's not worth it. I know you're trying to be nice, but it's not, whatever. So he sets the phone and he disappears. He disappears to the other room. And and I'm, of course, awake. And I realize it's getting close to 2 o'clock and my son's sleeping, and I don't want to wake the whole household. So I sneak into the bedroom to turn his phone off, so the alarm doesn't go off. And when I do, it opens up to his text screen. He's been texting. He fell asleep with it beside him on the bed, and he'd been texting. And there were the text messages that said, oh, yeah, she's really worried about her son, but I think everything's going to be okay. I think she's just worried about nothing, but you can't really say that to her. And then they said, hey, I should visit you. Where can I come and visit you? And then she sends him a super expensive resort nearby, and they laugh about it. And then he says something terribly hurtful. I'd be happy with you even at a, cheap motel. Great. And then they say, and this was the killer. You think all of that's like bad? No, that's not bad. Here's the killer. Then she says, I think her son will be all right, but what I'm really worried about is what's going to happen to your half of your wife's money. Is it going to go to her son's care? So now I know not only they been cheating actively on me the entire time, but they had been talking about and planning what they were going to do with his half of the money. Of my money. He didn't bring any of the money into the relationship. I brought all the money into the relationship. He had been living on me the entire time. And I'll tell you, that for me was like the thing that broke it. Just broke it. I just thought, not only has he betrayed me personally, betrayed my heart, he betrayed, our relationship, he's betrayed our marriage vows, but he's betrayed me financially. That this guy is planning to do something with my money, that he's been talking to a stranger, his mistress, about the money. And for me, that was like, whew. So I was normally like super careful, super scared, always paralyzed, couldn't speak. Literally, I'd go mute a lot. I'd have a hard time confronting him. This time I was so mad that I thought, okay, now am I going to sneak that phone back next to his bed and put it beside him like nothing happened? Or am I going to leave it out on the counter for him to know that I know? So I put it on the counter. And when he got up that morning to get it, he looked at me. I'll never forget the look. He looked at me And I looked back at him and I said, and this was like the brave me, the me that I had to like really find. I have her today, but boy, I had to really like search for her then. I looked at him and I said, I know. And he said, you know, did you see that silly, like funny, like pucker smile she gave me at the end? I don't know what that meant. And I'm thinking, no, she was blowing you kisses, dipwad. It, but I thought, there you are again, gaslighting. You're trying to like get off the topic. The topic is you piece of crap was talking about my money with your mistress and worrying about whether or not there's going to be enough left over for you to walk away in a good place. Like, jeez, as if even alimony was going to work like that. But anyway, so for me, that was like the big moment. Like I was done, but I also knew this was a really dangerous person who got desperate and got ugly when he got desperate. That I had to be play this out smart. So he left shortly after that. He packed up and fled. He fled back to the country. He said, I can't be here. It's too painful to be around this. I'm thinking, oh, boo hoo, go away. I mean, I don't need you here helping me. I already had helped my poor late husband die of cancer. If my son is going to have the same outcome, no, I don't know if I can survive it, but I certainly know how to walk this walk. I've walked down this path before. So that's what happened. By the way, those of you who've been asking, how's my son doing? My son actually just turned 33 this year. He's 5 years out. So we actually, in June, can say he's cured. We can actually use the word he's cured. He had acute myeloid leukemia, for those of you who don't know, which is, I'll tell you, the fact that he's cured is a miracle because 50% of that group of people passed away, but there's now a new chemotherapy out there that just was released 2 years prior to his diagnosis that is revolutionizing the AML treatment plan. And so he was able to take advantage of that treatment, although it was about destroyed him. It was terrible experience, horrible. I'd never want to repeat it again, but he is stronger than ever, doing great, and I'm so thankful. So yeah, that's how it happened. That's how the snooping happened in my relationship, and crazy. It's just crazy. So I would love to know, did it ever help you? Did it ever help you? Yeah, I know, change a topic. They're so good at changing the topic, aren't they? They love to do this circular argument, like for him to say, did you see that crazy face she made? No, I saw the conversation about you two talking about my money. That's what I saw, you piece of crap. Weirdly, I had a dream about him last night. Can I tell a dream that I had on him? It was so strange. This dream was so strange. I dreamed that for those of you who don't know, who haven't read my book, he probably was poisoning me. So he could get all my money, not just half of my money. He wanted all my money. So I had all the signs, and I've talked to a poison control nurse, and I've also talked to a poison expert, a doctor with a poison expertise in Atlanta, Georgia, and they both agreed that I was being exposed to heavy metal on a regular basis, that I had all the signs of arsenic poisoning. So, if for those of you who don't know, arsenic is the poisoner's choice because it's colorless and odorless. And it's tasteless. You don't know that you're being exposed to it because it has no flavor, no smell, no taste. Unlike other types of poisons can have certain kinds of for example, I think it's cyanide or one of the other ones have a strong almond flavor to it or smell to it. Arsenic is not. It's invisible, essentially invisible. And my ex loved to deliver he would deliver mineral water laced with lime to me at night. And I also found out that where we were living, you can buy arsenic as a homeopathic. It was seen as believe it or not, as a aphrodisiac. So you could buy tabs that could be dropped into something. Like, why would you do that? It's a poison. So I was getting super, super sick. I had toenails falling off. You guys really want to know this. My nails across all my nail beds had lines. All of them had lines. I had already been hospitalized with they couldn't find out why. They said that you were super sick. My white count was too high. I collapsed on a plane, and there was a doctor on board who said I had suffered either a heart attack or a stroke. I knew enough to know it was super serious because on the plane, when I came to, I couldn't speak. I could think of the words, I could see the words in my head, but I couldn't find any words, and it's called aphasia. I was aphasic. So they thought I'd had a stroke, or that meant my heart rate was. I heard them say it's thready and rapid. her rate is really thready. So I know they were alarmed. They were scared on the plane that I was really, really sick. So yeah, something was really wrong. And I had another incident. Here's another sign of arsenic poisoning. Arsenic poisoning sometimes causes excessive salivation, like with rabies. And so there was an incident. We were heading out one morning, going someplace, and all of a sudden I'm vomiting saliva. It's pouring out of my mouth like you see Old Yeller. If you ever watched Old Yeller, I mean, it was just scary. It was weird. And yet, here's the betrayal blindness: is that I didn't. Where all this strange stuff is happening to me, and I'm sick so much and feeling so miserable, and that nobody. We didn't talk about it. We acted like it wasn't happening. He actually handed me a grocery bag. I threw up in the grocery bag, and then he disposed of it, and I never knew what happened. I was like, this is so bizarre. So I found out later when I was writing the book, Love You More, I interviewed his past wives. Yes, he had more than one wife. There was one of them he didn't talk about. He rarely said anything about her at all. So it took me a long time to get a hold of her, and I finally got a hold of her. And when I did, I just, of course, do the normal thing. I'm having, a conversation, asking about a relationship, hearing her story, and she says spontaneously, without any invitation from me, I think he was poisoning me. I about dropped the cell phone. I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I think he was poisoning me. I felt I was really sick, and then when I got out of the relationship, I felt better." And oh man, jeez. Yeah. So anyway, in my dream last night, I dreamed that he poisoned somebody else, somebody powerful, a political figure, and that they killed him for it. It was so bizarre. I don't know why I dreamed that. It's funny because if you tell me your dream, I can interpret it for you. But as a psychologist, when it's my dream, I can't interpret it. So I'll have to sit and think about it. Like, what does that mean? Why did I dream that he poisoned somebody else and they got him for it? I don't know. So yeah. Megan Williams said, yeah, you said because I got really sick on the airplane. They almost landed it. We were flying international, and then the pilot asked the stewardess, the support staff to come back and say to us, I can't think of the name, you know what I'm saying. It's not stewardess. We don't call them any flight attendant. He asked the flight attendant to come back and talk to me because they moved me to first class, and they said, and the doctor was so worried and said she can't go to sleep. She said, yeah, I know, justice in my dreams. They said, you can't go to sleep. She's too ill. We don't want her falling asleep. And so the flight attendant said, the pilot wants to know, should he land? He's ready to land right now. He's going to land in Bogota. I'm like, no, I don't want to be in Colombia. Let's just finish the ride. Let's just finish the ride. So we did. We did finish. But it was, I felt bad. I knew something was wrong. I felt something was really, really wrong. And that I was fragile. I felt super like stretched thin, like something was like there wasn't a lot left of me. That's what I felt like. And now I don't feel that way at all. I mean, I'm 5 years older, and but I don't feel that way at all. But it's really weird how that was like that. And so yeah, no, Lulu, I appreciate you asking me. I was a psychologist and I missed the red flags. So Lulu, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why we missed the red flags. And I don't know how familiar you are with narcissistic abuse, but are you aware that when we first meet the individual, that they actually they don't present authentically. So you're not meeting the actual person. I thought the person I met was a Christian man who was very conservative. He liked classical music. He really wanted this next marriage to be a success, that he'd done some therapy and work on himself. That's what I thought I met. I found out that's not true once I got into the relationship, and then he started showing up as real self. I found out that, yeah, he was on the plane with me. Yes, he did act like he cared a whole lot. Yes, he put that show on really well. But I just thought that, he was a really great guy. And in fact, I even told my therapist when we were dating, and I was in therapy while we were dating, that I had never met a safer man. I couldn't have been more wrong, but I really felt like he was a super safe person. So why I would love to know, Lulu, why you think people miss the red flags? If you've been in a toxic relationship, why did you miss the red flags? And here's the thing that people get wrong about psychologists. They feel like because we can have a whole lot of insight about you and your life, that somehow that makes us sort of almost superhuman, that we just navigate everything really smoothly. But no, actually, we hopefully are just one step ahead of you is most of the time. Most of us don't have our acts a whole lot better together than you do. We may know a lot, but we don't necessarily have it all together. And remember, I'm a grieving widow when I met him. So I was very, very vulnerable at that time, which is another thing that they watch for. So they look for certain types of people. They're looking for vulnerable people. They're looking for individuals who have gone through a big transition. They also are looking for somebody who's very agreeable and has a high level of integrity and conscientiousness, because that means you're going to stick with this relationship and work super, super hard. So those are the things that they're actually looking for. And they plan to mimic, mirror, and parrot you so that when you meet them, you don't know that you've met somebody who's really not who they are. So, yes, and but vulnerable people, here's the thing, Audrey, I kind of struggle with that. I know I say that, but yet I also struggle with it because we are all vulnerable at one point or another in our life. We're all vulnerable. I love the fact that Dr. Romani recently has come out to say that she has been in a narcissistically abusive relationship. A lot of us have been. And you know this, here's the other bizarre thing. This is a super bizarre thing. Did you know that just like serial killers get bored with doing what they do, they start to play with the FBI? That's what Ted Bundy did. He deliberately looked up, if you read Anne Rule's book, The Stranger Beside Me, she shared, because she knew him personally, she shares how he actually looked where in the United States was their capital punishment, and he went deliberately there to do his next rampage because he was playing with the FBI. He wanted to say, can you catch me? Let's see if you can catch me. So, what narcissistic and particularly sociopathic narcissists do, and that's what mine was, they start to play with therapists. By the way, so anybody out here in the audience who has a social work degree or a psychology degree, or you're a psychologist or a social worker or a psychiatrist, you're at a particular target for this group because they get bored and when they want to see if they can outsmart you to say how superior they are as a human being, that they can even out. So mine was deliberately looking for a widow, and he loved the fact that I was a psychologist. Now, today, if I ever go on dating apps, and I'm not on them, but if I do, I don't announce to the world that I'm a psychologist because I really don't want to attract that group of people. I really don't. And it is true. We do love the idea of romantic love. We've been sold that fairy tale does exist. I do agree with you. And that when we do feel it, it's not just simply because we believe in the idea. Here's the thing that I'm struggling with. I'm going to come out and really say it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. What I struggle with your perspective, Lulu, and it's not just you, it's everybody. The perspective out there is this, and this is the bizarre thing, and I'm starting to hear conversations, but we need to talk about it more. Why do we keep focusing on the victims? Why? Why do we keep asking victims what they've done wrong or what they missed or how come they didn't know faster or why didn't they leave when they should have? Why are we doing that? Why? Because here's the thing, it happened to them. It happened to them. I didn't want to lose all the money that I lost in that relationship. I certainly didn't want to have my health put in jeopardy or be exposed possibly to a chemical that will permanently affect me. Do you know now that I'm at a greater risk for cancer? And I already have cancer running in my family. So I'm now at a considerable risk for cancer. Considerable risk. Why would I do that to myself? I would never have done that to myself. Why are we not asking this question? Predators. Whoever gave you the right to think that you could do that to anyone? What made you think that it's okay to treat people like this? Who taught you that people aren't people? Where did you ever learn that? How did you make it through school thinking it's okay to take advantage of people, to cheat at school, cheat on those tests, get ahead, lie, maybe to show up late at work and then take other people's work and pass it off as your own? Why do we not focus on them and say, you know what, guys, you need to do a better job, a different job, because the way you're showing up in life is not okay. Not okay. I was exposed to arsenic, probably strongly exposed for more than a year. So yeah, I don't know why we don't ask that, but instead we focus on the victims and we keep telling victims they need to be better people, better detectors, predator detectors. But the thing is that none of us are great predator detectors. So we as a culture, it's a cultural problem, not an individual problem, need to get better at that. And we need to start, oh, I'm so sorry that you got exposed to mercury. That's a scary one too. That we need to get better identifying that predators exist in our culture. I never was told that. Were you ever told that? You ever told hey, you should watch out for people who are exploitive, and this is what gaslighting looks like. And have you ever heard of Darvo? And I mean, I never heard that. But we put the focus on the wrong area. we put the focus totally in onto the victim who's being injured, as if they got to bear one more responsibility. Here's what it felt like on my side. I felt like I already was trying to survive being multiply, betrayed multiple times, severely, which has left me rattled and shaken and stressed. I felt like I now was living with somebody that I couldn't trust. I was already like stretched super thin because I certainly didn't feel like I could tell anybody because they would all look at me like I was the weirdest person in the world, and that needs to change. We need to become more supportive. And then I felt trapped financially, so I couldn't just up and leave. So now my options are limited. I'm severely, and he gives me no privacy. Was terribly coercively controlled. So all these weights piled on, piled on, piled on. And then people are like, and you're not leaving? Yeah, no, I don't know how to leave. He's scaring the crap out of me. He's already threatening me, and I'm already like super overwhelmed. And he's also, by the way, running me ragged with not enough sleep. I'm barely getting to eat in the evening. And you're now like, and now I'm a bad person, a weak person who's worn down, actually sick because he's poisoning me, and it's my fault I didn't leave. I think we need to really change the narrative. We need to stop doing this to victims. We need, and I use the word victims on purpose because I I feel there should be no shame in that. Now, I don't like the it's not like I'm going to walk around like I'm a victim. Treat me like a victim. No, I don't want the identity of it. But I do want I don't feel shame the fact that this happened to me, you know. So yes, I appreciate Lulu you asking me why a psychologist missed the red flags. Yes, yes. And you know what? You will too. And you will too. And you will too. And you will too. And if you haven't, which is what Don Hennessy in his book, the first part of his book, which says how he gets into her head, is it's just because you haven't met a sophisticated enough predator. Hey, Leslie, so good to see you. So he actually says, think of all the people that Bernie Madoff fooled. He fooled a lot of people and he did a really good job at it. And we could also ask them, what red flags did they miss? So yeah, that's the scary part. It's super, super scary is that it's easy to miss these flags because they hide them so well, because we've been taught not to listen to our gut. And when things feel a little off or uncomfortable, we'll say, well, that's what relationships are like. Nobody's perfect. You hear all sorts it takes two to tango. So what's your part of this responsibility? I mean, we have all of these things that we do that we really limit the victim's ability to say anything and to even recognize that something's going wrong. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, scrap a male. I don't let it define me either, but I also don't want to be ashamed of the label. And I know that as a man, that's even a harder thing. And that's like I've been saying in the past few lives, men, if there are men in the audience, please, in my links in my bio, and as well as crap along, it's right in the show notes today. There's a form for you to become part of a focus group because I think if this is this hard for a woman to talk about this, can you imagine what this is like for men to talk about this? In fact, I got to meet somebody yesterday. Somebody had an interview with me and who was a man, and he said, I never would use that word. Things have been horrific in my life, but I would never define it that way. So it makes it really hard for any of us because we look so hard, so firmly at victims instead of looking at those who are doing exploitive things. We should turn the fingers into the opposite direction and look at those around us and say, cut it out. Literally, cut it out. Become a better human. So, yeah, my ex's husband's dad is stuck in a trauma bond with his wife. Yeah, exactly. That exactly happens because manipulation is emotional, not intellectual. Yes, that's a really good point, Ruthie May. I love that point. It is an emotional, and it is also it's not even just emotional. It's also it's so thank you so much for that gift. It is so confusing that we don't even know that it's happening because they're running around us so fast that we can't follow the line of the thread of the logical argument. In fact, for you guys to know, there's somebody great to follow, she's fantastic to follow. Um, she is on Instagram and she's also on Facebook, and her name is Jenny Young. Jenny, Jennie Young. Now, she has this dating thing, and you don't need to be dating. I'm not asking you to follow her because you might think about dating at some point. But what she is she's a PhD in English rhetoric, applied rhetoric. And she literally takes the word salad. Now, she uses dating profiles as her material, but you can apply it to anything, to anybody. So I'm just saying, watch her principles because she talks about, for example, one of the things that she just brought to light that I thought was fascinating is the test and apologize strategy. Have you ever heard of that? The test and apologize. What will happen is the toxic person will actually do something that's sort of a mildly offensive. I mean, early on, it'll be a small thing. They'll do something kind of like something they shouldn't. And here's what mine did. Mine sent me a dick pic. I don't like them. There's no. We were dating at the time, but I just don't see any purpose in it. To me, it's. I don't get it. I don't know why any man does that. Women, I have never heard of a woman. Maybe there's a rare one or two who wants them, but I don't want them. I just really, they're. I don't get it. But he sent me one, and he said, "Oh," and then when I didn't respond, he apologized. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that." So it usually is not that dramatic. It usually is not. But watch for that. Watch for that push of the limits and then the take back and the apology. That's a test. And the test is this. Are you going to be compliant? Are you going to allow me to boundary cross? And what you're going to do when you feel like something is inappropriate. Oh, thank you so much, EP. I appreciate that. So really watch out for that because that's purposefully a test of you and how compliant you're going to be. She talks about the other one is that they use code words that they don't really mean, but they use it as a way to talk about it, but then they can later not talk about it. For example, I had a guy reach out to me just yesterday, actually, somebody that I'd met on a dating app months ago, and he reaches back out. And we never went anywhere the first time. he got blocked this time, and he started to say he'd been alone for a long time, and he made some other comment to me about wanting to know about me, and I didn't like pay attention to. Oh, I know what it was. He asked for a full body picture of me. Dude, I don't even remember you. Why would thank you so much. Why would I like send you a full body picture? So I don't. And he said, "Hey, you have not sent me that photo." And I said to him, "You know what? You're a stranger. I don't know you. I did not start this conversation. You just told me you're lying in bed and bored. So I kind of know already what you're telling me you want to do with my photo. I'm not interested." Which, okay. And then he said, "I wasn't talking about sex." Yeah, you were. Come on, dude. We're not children. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm not playing. So that's another thing that they'll do. They'll be so vague. They'll be so vague about something that you know, and they know what the subtext is, but they'll come back and then deny the subtext. I wasn't saying that. You just have a filthy mind. So watch out for that because that actually is no. We all know. In fact, he then switched it on himself. If you ever watch Mental Healness, he'll talk about this too. He switches it on himself and he says, "Well, that's what I get for not being with a woman for a while." Okay, so which is it? Are you doing this for sex or are you just like not because you just said that you weren't, but now that you said you were. So watch for that. They'll do this like really confusing thing where it's both and they'll say it's neither. And it just leaves you like shaking your head because you don't really know at all what they're talking about. So I know I so appreciate knowing that about you, Scrap and Mel. That you're like I don't understand why men do that either. I don't know. I don't know either. I really would love to know. I would love to know the first person who ever thought that was a cool idea and how it ever caught on. Because I don't think men go to each other. "Hey, dude, guess what I just did? Really cool thing. You should do it." Like really? I mean, come on. It's funny. So yeah, it's strange. So watch out for that. So if you guys want to learn more about the talk behind the talk, the rhetoric, the context and subcontext and all of that stuff, check out Jenny Young. She goes by a different handle on Instagram, and I don't even know if she's on. She is on TikTok. I know she's on TikTok because what she's doing a no. She's taking her TikToks and I'm reposting them straight up on Instagram, which you're normally not supposed to get away with. By the way, she also just got featured in a big magazine this week, really big magazine. So she's fascinating. And the title of my book, the one that I've been talking about that tells the like raw graphic story of what I went through, is called Love You More. Love You More. Because what he used to do, I don't know if you guys know this, but he used to say, he would never say spontaneous, "I love you" first. He wouldn't do that, which hurt because my first husband did that all the time. "I love you." And I'd say, "I love you more," or "I love you too." That's what I usually say. "I love you too." Or if I said, I love you, he'd go, I love you too. But what this guy would do, if I would usually then start it because I would missing hearing it. And I'd say, I love you. And then he'd say, love you more. And then I know I love you more. And I'm usually that should end the game, right? That's supposed to be how we end it. And he would say, no, I love you more. It became a competition. Well, the ironic part was this guy, I found out later, I tell about this in the book. This is a year into the marriage. I found out that while we were dating, he was seeing a minimal of seven other women, minimal of seven other women. And then throughout our relationship, he was seeing many, 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 many women. So he didn't love me at all. That's the irony. So I call it love you more because of because it's the game we played where he would have one up me, but also because it's ironic and he never really loved me at all. And here's the other thing. I bet you guys didn't know that. Did you know I published that book on Valentine's Day? I published it on Valentine's Day 2022. I thought, what a great way to celebrate the year by saying, don't love you anymore, to this guy. So, yeah, I'd love you to check it out. I have talked about, and I'm now gonna get this. I'm getting support. I finally had to break down and get an assistant because I am overwhelmed with work. But I'm going to schedule a live where we read the reviews up because I have 400 ratings on Amazon, and then I don't know how many reviews. I got a lot of reviews. And I also have a lot of reviews on Goodreads, which they don't like me as much over there. So it's not as positive. But some of them are downright hilarious, where they're like, shockingly cruel to me. So I thought it'd be interesting to read that and talk about it. And then take your questions. Maybe you guys have questions about what happened in certain segments of the book, or why did I do this, or what was going through my mind. I would really, oh, thank you so much, Sammy. I really would like to do that. I think that would be a lot of fun to go through Love You More. And I have started. It is slow going, but I have started a new book. I have no title for it yet, but I've been working on the chapter Living in My Skin, and I'm kind of weaving in a little bit of stories, but it's going to also be way more about the topic, like the about what the abuse's impact on us, and how I'm healing, how we can heal from these. So yeah, I will definitely schedule it, Kate. I'll make it. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. I'll schedule it on the app, but I will definitely schedule this so that you guys can hear about that, but also maybe give you a little taste of the new book that it's going to take, I can already tell, I hate to tell you guys this, it's going to take me a good year or more, probably more than a year to write the new book. So, but I'm super excited about that. Oh, thank you so much, Megan. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you enjoyed it. Here's the other thing, and Janet, you are bringing up a very good point. Let's talk about that. Do you know that you probably don't have any privacy either? That snooping doesn't just go one way; it's probably happening both ways. I found that I had heard that when I was preparing to do the retreat. For those of you who don't know, I now offer retreats for men and for women who are. And I'm so excited, Ella, that you're getting that book, Surviving to Thriving. Let me know what you think. I really would love to know what you think. But I yeah, yes, Lisa and I wrote that book together, Surviving to Thriving. For those of you who are trying to heal and you want help working through it, check out the TikTok shop. And if you're struggling with confusion, you really don't know what's real or true, make sure you check out the First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist. Now, the trauma recovery book, Ella, is through Lisa, which I don't have, but I would have First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist, which is the companion. Really, Lisa and I should get Lisa to send me her trauma bond recovery book and pair them together because that cognitive dissonance is a piece of what happens with a betrayal bond. So she's talking about trauma bonds and I'm talking about cognitive dissonance, and they really go together. They're really actually like two sides of the same coin that happen. So First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist really helps you understand what's real and why you don't know what's real. And a trauma bond recovery is 12 steps to breaking the bond that you get so connected and feel so dependent on them. So if you guys are wanting more insight, so Lisa Sunny is the author of the Trauma Bond Recovery book journal. And then First Steps to Leaving a Narcissist, a guide to cognitive dissonance, is mine. It's a workbook as well. So both of those are workbooks that really help you break the bond and break the confusion, which are both pieces of this issue. And I'd never thought about, I have her other book called Narcissism Unmasked. So I know her and I are partners. I don't know if you guys know that, but her and I are now business partners. I should just get her to send me her book so I can sell it on TikTok Shop. I would love to do that. So yeah. Um, but yeah, we're offering retreats. So yeah, where was I going? There was something I was going about all of this. Um, but oh yes, okay. Here's where I was going with it. It's about the fact that a lot of us don't have the privacy we think we do. So here's what I found: as I was getting closer to the retreat, I was shocked the number of people who are having their ex actually survey their emails. And I then I got a hold of, I was talking to Sandra Brown, who's one of the OGs in whole narcissistic abuse arena, and talking to her, and she had tried to do retreats, and she said, yeah, they'd even put trackers on their phone, on their cars. That she actually had one of her retreats, she had the partner show up screaming outside the house. Like, whew. So it's real. It is real. I know that I've also had members, my club members. For those of you who don't know, I have an exclusive membership called Toxic Free Relationship Club. If you'd like to learn more about that, so also a link in my bio. But I've had club members that found out their partners seemed to know way too much about things they shouldn't know. And it was only when they got a new phone, they scrubbed the old phone, they didn't back it up, and they started way over new with a new one, that suddenly that stopped. That awareness, that vigilance stopped. Mine, this is what mine would do. I don't think mine ever cloned my phone or did anything like that, although I did change all the passwords and everything. Um, but what he would do is he would just show up on me. He would literally show up and then take me out for breakfast and kind of quiz me. And I knew he was watching me, and he was trying to like pick up if I was going to do something that was going to harm him. It was amazing. I mean, I just felt like there was like no privacy with him. I just felt like he was like looming over me. And then I found out that he had gone through my phone when I left it sitting out once. He admitted that, and that he also took photos of me that I didn't know, that I wasn't aware of. Yeah, Megan, what I will probably do is don't leave the chat after this is over, because the chat stays alive when the YouTube live stream ends, and I'll actually put the name of those books in this chat. Okay, so stick around. Don't leave just because the live ends, because I can't type. It's the microphone's in front of me, so I don't know how to do it any other way, not to have the microphone in front of me, unfortunately. So that makes it really limits my ability to be able to type. Yeah, I agree with you, Phoenix, is that if you've been with a narcissist or you've been involved with them, you really may want to have a dedicated separate phone. Here's what Gavin DeBecker talks about in the book Gift of Fear. This is what he did. Yes, Gafferlong, this is where I was going to go. Thank you. You already jumped ahead on me on this. Gavin DeBecker, that's an amazing book, you guys. You really should read The Gift of Fear. I cannot highly recommend that enough. It really is great about dealing with potential of dangerousness. What he recommends that you do is that you get a second phone. Do not back it up from your first phone. You need a second phone, second line, second company. Don't use the same company. Use a second different company. And if you guys want, here's the plug. I can tell you a really cheap company if you're in the United States. I have no connection. I'm not getting any money from them. Is Mint Mobile. I love Mint Mobile. I think Ryan Reynolds owns it, and I have it. And for less than $300 a year, I get 15 gigabytes of data on it every month. Less than $300 a year, I get 15 gigabytes of data. They also now have an unlimited plan. So if you really want that, that's possible. But anyway, get a second phone. Never tell your partner of the second phone, not ever. And only give that second number out to those who you want to have this number, the select few. And if you then end this relationship, you'll slowly give the new number out to new people, but you'll never tell the other person, the older person, that this phone exists. And eventually, they'll think that they're calling you, and they'll hear the voicemail message. They just think that you're not picking up, when you've actually then maybe you've stashed it somewhere and you're not using it anymore. So that's a great way to deal with somebody who just won't stop harming, or like hounding you and stalking you, and they insist on having contact with you. That's a really great way without ever letting them know that you've gone no contact. So what is parental alienation and narcissism? So yeah, I that's an interesting question. I don't I need to do more research on who's using the word parental alienation, because I have mixed a reaction. This is what my from afar, because I have not been in through the court system on custody issues, so I don't really know what's happening there. But I have heard a lot of people claiming parental alienation as a way to attack and kind of almost abuse the partner who's trying to keep their kids safe from a toxic person. So, is that what you mean? Is that how you're referring to it? That it's an accusation that some toxic people use as a way to accuse the parent who's trying to be the sane parent, the healthy parent, of somehow limiting their contact when actually the toxic person is probably not doing a good job maintaining the access all on their own. Or if they are, they're being really controlling and excessively involved and very intrusive. So I have a sense parental alienation is a complaint being made by abusive people towards the healthier parent as a way to control them. But I don't know that. It's just my from a distance what I think is happening. Yeah, it can be that that second phone deal could be a great way for you to actually just kind of like put the first phone away and just like set it down and just ignore it for a while so that you can get space from somebody who's just like on you all the time. But yeah, let me know what you guys think on that parental alienation thing. Yeah, Jenny Young, thank you. That's her name, Jenny Young. She calls herself like wordsmith mask. I don't know. She has this strange name that she uses. If I go to Instagram to find her, yeah, but that's who she is. Yeah. And that's how she spells her first name, Jenny. So if you go look for her, her Facebook group on dating is over 50,000 people. 50,000 people. It's free. Everything she does is for free. She doesn't charge any money. She's a professor, actually. And she does all of this education for free, which is really super amazing. So if you guys want to learn what rhetoric, applied rhetoric is, and how that works when it comes to toxic people, you're going to love her stuff. It's amazing. But I'm waiting to hear more on parental alienation. Yeah. I have wondered. So here's a question. Since would you guys, now that you know what you know, would you snoop again on your partner? Would you go back and do it? There's a part of me, I think just because I love the I love, going for the unknown. I'm one of these people. I wish I had been born like in the 1800s because I'm one of these people that would have like backpacked across America. I would have been, uh, the people joining Lewis and Clark. I would have like, yeah, take me. I just love that. I just love that. So there's a part of me that just loves the sleuthing part of the whole thing. So yeah, I would be tempted to do it. I think I would even go all out. I think I would learn how to do a keystroke logger. I'd be really, you would not, yes, worst case scenario, Jenny. That's it. That's her. Thank you for that. I think I would be really, really toxic. No, I think my partner, like, in fact, near the end of that relationship, he and I watched, he's a big movie buff, and he and I watched the movie Gone Girl. And I remember him looking over at me and saying, that better not be you. And I thought in my head, I just smiled. I just smiled. And I thought in my head, oh, dude, you have no idea. You really have no idea. So, I probably only if I felt the need to. I don't want to walk into a relationship feeling like I need to, that this is just a way to keep myself safe because then what's the point of the relationship? You know, that you're already like you're already saying I don't trust anybody. So I don't want to come up from the angle of I don't trust anybody, but I also don't want to be naive. And so my first this would be what I would do if I was in a relationship where this person was making the behavior around something was making me edgy, like their hours don't line up, or the mileage on the car feels really weird, or money's going missing in the account, or or they're being super secretive about money, or super secretive about something. I would say, hey, I'm not feeling something feels off here. I don't, why are we being so why is this so much protection around XYZ? It just the way that this is being handled makes me feel uncomfortable. I would do that first. And then I would see what this person says. If they make it feel safe, it's like, oh, really? Oh, man, I didn't mean that. Hey, no, I have no problem with you knowing what's in my account. Not at all. Or, hey, I have, my phone, here's my passcode right here. No problem. Seriously. That's my first step. But if they started being a little edgy around it or taking extra steps to block me or stuff like that, then I would really start to rethink the relationship, honestly. I think that's where I'd go next. I might snoop to validate, but I may not. I just may say, I just don't feel safe. This relationship's not doing anything to make me feel really like I feel I'm like we're on the same page with each other because there should be a mutuality. There should be a trust, and I just don't feel like we're trusting each other. I don't doesn't feel like there's trust building here. So I think that's what I would do first. So Divine says, I wish I could find someone who's an open book. I don't know if that exists out there anymore. I hope that it does. I really hope. So there's a search. Someone's saying a search. Use US search. You know what I use, Jana? I use Fast People Search. Have you tried that one? Fast People Search? Get an amazing amount of information that's for free. Oh, man. So Marigold, so I bought mine a cell phone for her birthday and discovered many women via the phone bill, and it was a her that she did that. Oof, Marigold, I'm so sorry. That's awful. Yeah, but that's what I would do these days. So Megan says you're kind of setting yourself up when you tell somebody you've been in a toxic abusive relationship so they know what you're telling. Right, I don't tell them that. Is that I don't walk into a new relationship saying, "Yeah, I've been in a bad relationship." I just said, "Yeah, things weren't great." You know how relationships end. I'm really vague. And I don't tell people I wrote a book, and I don't tell people I'm out there on social media. Now, once they know my last name, all they do is Google me, and then they'll know a lot and stuff I don't really want them to know. But most people, I find, interestingly enough, maybe this is more of a man thing. If you're a woman, I would have Googled your ass because I do Google the people I go out with. But I find most men don't, and again, I think that's the degree a lot of men just feel safer. Maybe they shouldn't, but I think they just feel safer, so they don't feel they need to do that. So they don't, I'm not tended to be Googled. So they don't tend to know anything. Well, I'm just realizing what time it is. This is such a fascinating discussion. The clock got away from me, and I have another appointment right now, so I need to leave. But thank you so much for being with me here today. I will be back next week at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, just the same as today, and we're going to get into betrayal blindness. So if you guys you're not familiar with Jennifer Freed's work, because Jennifer Freed's work, Blind to Betrayal, it's the name of the book. We're going to talk about betrayal blindness. What is it? Can you recognize it? Because if you're blind to it, how do you see it? Because you're literally psychologically blind. So we're going to talk about how can you spot something that you're actually not seeing. We're going to get into that. So I so appreciate you all hanging out with me. Thank you so much for liking and following. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and become a follower. And I do this every week. So I would love to have you come back and be with me. So I will see you guys in next Tuesday. And I may surprise you and go live on the weekend. We'll see. All right, you guys. Bye bye.